Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Furman Athletics. I am Dan Scott, voice of the Paladins, and as you can see, it is our monthly visit with Athletic Director Jason Donnelly, and for the first half of our get-together, basketball coach Bob Richey. Good to see you, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Doing good. We're doing great. And Dan, I wanted to take this opportunity. It's more an interest of Bob's time as we go through it. This has been a great month. It's been a really busy month, and I was reflecting on how long it's been since we had a chance to actually sit down and do this, because Bob and I have spent a lot of time together, and there's been a lot going on, a lot of great stuff going on. But it's been a busy, I think, 6 weeks since the season ended, and we just wanted a chance to catch up with Bob, because Dan asked me, who do you want to have on the show? I said, honestly, I think we need to have Bob, because there's just so much that's been going on with Furman basketball the last couple of weeks, and wanted to talk about all these things with Bob. But first of all, Bob, congratulations on, I think, an amazing season. So proud. We had a chance, and Bob and I and the team and the coaches, we had a really special donor dinner. You know, it was paid for by some of our best supporters, and they were very nice to take us out, and it was a first-class evening. But in the feeling of those remarks, it's just the excellence of the team. You know, the work that you did, the work that your staff did, the work that our senior class has done, what they've accomplished. I had the pleasure and the misfortune of being in the locker room after the last game, and the tears and the emotion from everyone in the room, but most poignantly Alex Hunter, your children, you know, the staff, everything, just the emotion of that. But what a remarkable season across the board, just in terms of accomplishments, just in terms of everything, excellence in the way that it went on. And I couldn't be prouder with the way that you and the team have handled everything the entire way. But congratulations to you on an amazing year.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, there was a lot involved with that, a lot of people involved with that. First and foremost, you know, our players. And, you know, it was a fun team to be a part of. I mean, I really feel like from top to bottom of what this team was capable of doing in terms of getting to their potential, this was the most we've seen a team get to their full potential, you know, probably also in line with that 18-19 team. And that's what I was most proud of. You know, it was going through the year, and you look at it, by far the hardest schedule we've ever played, and you know, coaches all the time say that, but that was very factual and objectively measured. That we went out, made a key decision to go challenge ourselves in a number of ways. Lost 2 all-conference players from the team before, and really brought in our first transfer in a guy named Conley, Garrison, who ended up being a huge piece of our team. And it was just, for me, you know, I've told a lot of my friends this. I've never felt that good in March in terms of just physically and mentally. Usually you're drained by that point. And I could have gone another month. I mean, it was just such a fun team to coach. And they, regardless of the highs and the lows, they just came to work trying to get better. And we had our share of adversities. There's no doubt about it. But it was also a team that just came together, and it was really neat to go through it. I think for the program, we hit a new peak. And I think that's regardless. We all love to take 3 or 4 steps and, you know, see that shot not go in and rattle out, and, you know, to get what comes with that. But it doesn't take away what this team was able to do. And we know that the game up the street is very important. And this was the first time since 2006 that we swept our rival. And that's been a big deal. You know, that's been a big deal. They've had our number. Mm-hmm. We had to change the psychology of that game a little bit. And they're a very good program, very established program. But just to go have some success in that series was a huge step. And then we also know that the reality of what Asheville's been around here for a while, and the mental component and the emotional component and the weight of which we've had in Asheville. And, you know, the whole season, the line was always this team right here is 0-0 in Asheville. And we have to go up there and play like that. And none of us were around in 1980. I wasn't even born then. And you know, it's one of those deals where.
Thanks for reminding me about that, Bob.
Yeah, I felt like as a program, we had to be able to go up there with clear minds, clear hearts, and with an expectation that we were going to go get that done. And you know, there's been 3 teams this century that have played in the championship game. I was an assistant for the 15 team, and then I think the 02 team win. And both those were great runs. I was a part of one of them, and I've heard about the other one. Paul Foster, one of our big supporters and former players, was a part of that. And you hear a lot of stories about those two games. They were both incredible runs by, I think they were 5th in the South, which is, you know, mm-hmm. 10 out of 12. And then we were the 10 seed out of 10. And so this is really the first time this century that we were supposed to go and win. And there's been other teams that we had the seating that we should have gone. Mm-hmm. And we've just gone up there, and it hasn't been a favorable place for us. And there was a mental component to that I felt like we had to work through. And this team did that. And they went up there with an expectation to win. They played like it, they played with a looseness about them. They played with a togetherness about them, and really with a resolve up there that we haven't had. And I think those steps, we get another high major win in the Louisville game, which was huge. And, I thought being able to navigate the schedule in the way we did, we dealt with a 3-game losing streak where, a lot of people were ready to, fall off the wagon. And it was 3 really close games that, you look at it, we were able to get a lot out of that. But it was a great year. And, it ended in a way that I've never experienced in playing or coaching. But I'll tell you this, when it happened that night, you felt like, man, we must be 1 out of a million to have to go through something like this. I mean, who's had to endure this? And the amount of calls that I've gotten in the last 6 weeks from people that have told me, hey, been there, done that. And you listen to their story, and you're like, wow. And then the second part of that that's been great is to hear, just wait till you see where this gets you.
Yes.
And that's from Dabo Sweeney to other, coaches that have won more games at higher levels than other people. But to be reminded of that, and our message has been to our group, we want to make sure that with this happening, that we become stronger, wiser, and more determined, and that we use that shot as something that propels us. That it's not, we're not going to be victims to that shot. That shot's going to be a part of the story, and we're going to go back on that shot, and we're going to look back on it, and it's going to be something that will propel us. And when you go through something like that, it's our moment as a program to be able to show everybody that follows us that this is how we're going to respond to this. And it's been energizing, and it's been something that our team it's been phenomenal to see Jalen Slauson and Mike Bothwell to say, hey, we want to circle this back. There's a lot of positives around it that we're excited about, and as we march forward into the next season.
And just to give Dan and our fans clarity, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you talk about it. What Bob just said to all of us is almost word for word what he told the team in the locker room that night. With the emotions, with everything that just took place, the story, the journey, the sacrifice, everything too, which is really remarkable because literally what you just said has been the message with the team. And I shared with the team the other day too, because you shared these thoughts with them, and this has been a consistent message that because of my newness to Furman and some different relationships across the basketball and sporting spectrum, I've heard from more people nationally about that game, the exposure of that game, the composure of the team, the back and forth nature. Like if you just take that game, it's an instant classic. When you take just the game going down to regulation, then the game in overtime, and then you look at also the margin of victory around this series with Chattanooga. You look at these 2 heavyweight teams going pound for pound, 1 possession games. I mean, think about the game there, with a layup at the line. It's just unbelievable how closely entangled these 2 teams were. But it just shows you also, we've talked about how strong we felt about this team, not just in terms of what we thought was capable in the Southern Conference, but also what we believe could be for the postseason, which was why part of the stance that you had with the program was, I believe this is an NCAA tournament team. I believe this team is NIT worthy. I agree with you. We're working through different things on metrics and conferences and different things like that in terms of opportunities. But I really also, we haven't had a chance to talk about it publicly, but I really respected the team's stance saying, hey, we believe we're an NCAA tournament team. And if we're not going to be in the NCAA tournament, we're going to be in IT. And if not, that's the standard we're going to hold ourselves to for this season. Doesn't mean it's that way every year, but for this season it is. But can you talk a little bit about that too? Because at the end of the season, for our fans, they just wanted to keep playing, but there's also a standard to which this program was working towards in that season.
Well, I think there's a few factors that go into play with that. There's different individual philosophies on those games. I just, we're a development program, and we're pretty, upfront about that. And playing in the postseason is a great deal if you're in the NCAA tournament and you're in the NIT. If not, it becomes a basically a risk-reward calculation on my part of, at this point, any further games will get into the development process of the spring. And I just
can you explain, because I know what you're saying, but you need, the fans might not understand what you're working toward next.
So basically, like in the spring, we usually get a 4-week period where it's strictly about the individual, and it's about basically the way we do it. It's an individualized plan from the strength and conditioning aspect, but also the skill aspect of it, to where they're getting one-on-one skill workouts with the assistant, and we're basically starting to form next year's group. And if you go in one of these events, which they're pay-for-play events, right? Like the institution will provide the resources to go play in these games. And for me, I just don't feel like it's a good investment. I don't feel like it's something with when you're having to start to get into now. Okay, now we're only going to have 2 weeks with our group. I don't think it's worth it. And I think if you get an opportunity to play on national TV in a national tournament, then hey, let's play till June, right? Like we'll play as long as we need to. But for the most part, if you have a very young team, if you're playing some people that, hey, look, we had this big late run late in the year, and we feel like we're going to have this team back next year, there might be some reasons for it. But our sights were set on something bigger. And when you invest so much of yourself into something and you commit so much passion to try to go chase something that you feel like is attainable, when you get to the end of it and you lose it in that type of fashion, then it was just one of those emotional moments where we just made the decision that, hey, this is closure. It was a great season. Let's quickly get the page to how are we going to use this to motivate us for next year.
Yes.
And I felt like our team really did a great job rallying around it. I will say this, to add to the context of that the regular fan wouldn't be able to experience. We left there and we came back to the hotel, and it was interesting. In our meeting room, we had a lot of players that just started kind of finding themselves there, and one player to 2 players to 4 players. And it got to be like 2 o'clock in the morning, and almost our whole team was in there. And I woke up the next morning, and I basically told the team in the locker room that night, I said, hey, look, we'll talk about this tomorrow before we leave. And we had players stay in that room till 6 a.m. that night. And I told them in the team meeting the next morning, I said, as much as you'll remember the shot, you'll remember the 6 a.m. And the idea that when they went through one of their most adverse points of the year, that they drew together and that they wanted to be around one another and they wanted to share that time. And, they were talking about it. They said, we'd have tears and emotions, and then all of a sudden we're laughing and we're just leaning on one another. And that's what this program's about, and that's what it's been founded on. And it's one of those situations where I'm convicted that this will be a part that we'll look back on and say, hey, this pushed us to a part that we couldn't have gotten to without it.
And Dan, before you jump in, I also want to thank our fan base, and Bob has been really clear about this also. We felt the love. We felt the support. There was a point I'd gone outside the arena on championship night, and it was a sea of purple coming into that arena in terms of people that made the trip and made the trek and believed and wanted to be a part of it. So I think the emotions are shared by so many different people. I mean, there was people nationally who watched that game nationally, but the fan base mobilizing and to be a part of that and that weekend. It wasn't just, the women's basketball and the men's basketball and the cheer and the band and the fans, and then the whole thing started to really come together in an amazing, beautiful way, which was really encouraging, which to me is just the building block of what we're going to go do next. And I wanted you to be able to talk to the fans about it because it was an inspiring feeling being up there as well.
Well, it was a lot of fun. That energy was game by game, right? You felt more energy. And, I do think we're just getting started. I really do. And my challenge to the fan base on that is, let's make this something, if it's that first week of March, that we're there the whole time. And I think there's a lot of people that noted, hey, people gathering at the hotel after the game and how that grew each night.
That was
and
cool.
all of a sudden, I think that it's just the beginning. And we've got to understand, like, these days of fear in Asheville, those days are over. And we've got to go embrace Asheville, and we've got to be excited about Asheville. And part of that excitement is our participation and our presence, because it's one thing that I've said a lot is we get to decide who gets the home court advantage in Asheville. And it's a neutral court, and we're an hour away. So if we can get up there and we can hey, let's see if they go to the championship. Let's go there. Let's be there Saturday night. Let's be there Sunday night. Let's go play on national TV on Monday night and make it to where it's more of a tradition, that it's not just, hey, let's see how this goes, that this is a yearly deal that we're going to be a part of, because we can really we can set the home court advantage in Asheville, which only helps the performance of it. And but you felt the energy growing each and every day. And the people in Greenville, I mean, the amount they do say, I mean, unfortunately, I've learned that this is definitely true. All news is good news, and that's definitely been the case here. You'll walk into Starbucks and the guy makes your latte or whatever. He's like, Coach, sorry, man. It's one of those.
Still
deals.
made you pay for it, though, didn't
Absolutely,
it?
yeah. But it's brought a lot of attention to the program. It's brought a lot of attention to the team, to the university, and I think I heard social media was up 700% on campus that week. And I think it's one of those situations where this is either going to be stumbling block or stepping stone, and we're going to make this a stepping stone. And our call to our program, but also our supporters, is let's all work with that mentality, that this is going to be something that we step towards where we want to be. And, we're excited about the days ahead.
You talk about the 6 a.m. thing, and I couldn't help but think in 30-plus years, I've been blessed to interview a lot of high-profile former college athletes, former professional athletes, and when their playing days are over, you ask them, what do you miss the most? And they never tell you about a particular game or an at-bat or a touchdown or anything. They always talk about they miss the camaraderie. They miss the time with their teammates in the locker room. That's what they miss most. And you've got that culture developing here where guys who are stunned and they're heartbroken and they just had their guts ripped out of them. What do they want to do? They want to be with each other, and they don't want that night to end. I mean, I hear that, and I just think that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's who they are.
Yeah.
It's what this program's about, and that was a reminder to them that, hey, we're all chasing moments in this, and it's hard for us to understand that. We feel like we get tricked into thinking that this is destinational. It's not. I mean, had the shot rimmed out and we would have won, then yeah, the streak would be over. But let's not mistake this now. We'd be doing everything we can to go do it again. Mm-hmm. And there's no finality to this. And so what you have to understand is it's the continuation of process, and you have to take the good and the bad, and you have to figure out how do we continue to propel this forward. And we're going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind. We used to be selling a dream, and then we start selling, hey, we're close. And then all of a sudden now we have the reality that we were right there. I mean, we tasted it for 4 seconds. We're all about, we're all right there. And so now it's about, hey, there's just going to be this one more moment that's going to push this over. And, we're constantly working. My wife's reminding me that I still need to slow down. We have not taken a break since it's been over. We probably all need one. We've had some very positive things with the program in the off season that we are trying to capitalize on in a number of fronts. But there's a lot of work to be done. There's nobody that's sitting around complacent and feeling like, hey, we've done something that we're complete. We want to keep pushing.
That's what we want to talk about. Also, it's already been a busy off season, in terms of comings and goings, and we're certainly going to miss our senior class and Alex and Conley and everything they've done, everyone. But talk to us about next year's team, what you're excited about, and some of the things you're going through, both with guys on the roster and guys that are incoming. And we can't talk about every last thing, but want to talk about all those things you're excited about. Also, changes in your coaching staff, which is great. When you become a head coach and your guys start to become head coaches, it's a great tribute to you and to Furman basketball to have Jimmy Williams take the job at Anderson as well.
Well, yeah, it's been one thing after another, but first of all, those two seniors, what special people. And, and it's not just those two.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you another guy, Rob Swanson, that you don't hear a lot about Rob, but we don't do what we did without him.
Right.
And, we had a great group, that really led at the top. And, I'll say this about Alex Hunter. He's going to go, regardless if it's asterisk or not, he's going to go out here the all-time winningest player in Furman history. He's got the 3-point record as well. I think one thing that's lost a lot in this whole idea, this transfer portal stuff, is because it's so celebrated that quitting's cool and running place to place is a trendy deal. We don't celebrate enough the people that stay because it's just kind of expected.
Right.
And I hope our fan base doesn't take for granted the fact that Alex Hunter said, "I want to do this again." And I said about 2 college coaches, head coaches, this weekend recruiting that both looked at me and said, he could have gone places. And of course. Alex Hunter would have had a number of options. Mm-hmm. And the reward that he got by coming back, Conley Garrison, unbelievable teammate, one of the best I've ever been around. It's something we take a lot of pride in terms of being great teammates here. For him to embody who we were in such a quick time, the only way he was able to do that is because it's who he was already. And so he didn't have to change. His character is unbelievable. And what he did for this team, again, another response to adversity, right? Nobody wanted Noah to leave. Nobody was excited about that. I love Noah, still do. But it wasn't a deal where we hung our heads. Noah decided to go pursue a graduate program, went to Alabama, and we found Conley. And it wasn't, it wasn't that one was better than another. It was just that we had to go find a replacement. And he was different, but he came in and gave us great leadership. He gave us a tough. He's tough. He's smart. He's skilled, right? And he was a great teammate. And so those two guys were phenomenal. But in terms of next year's team, I mean, it's really exciting. I mean, you sit back, and we're going to have about a month to prepare for our summer, where we start to really put down the foundation of the team. And the biggest challenge for us as leaders of the program is going to be clear with expectation, to be able to navigate a uber competitive situation. And we're very, very excited about Mike and Slauson's decision to come back. I know recently everybody's probably seen the statement on Mike, which I felt like he handled in complete class. Both of them are actually exploring feedback with the NBA draft. And really what they're trying to do here is this. They want to get some workouts. And if they go ahead and declare they're able to get brought in by a few of these teams, get feedback that we can build into their off-season plan and really shape what they need to do in these last 2 years. And so they're going to be able to do that. It's going to be great experience for them. And then they'll be able to come back. And then you got Marcus Foster, the returning starter. But then you have a lot of guys that really picked up a lot of experience this year that were really, in some ways, new. I mean, you look at Garrett. We don't make the dent in the tournament we make without Garrett's emergence. There's I'm thinking of one of our supporters, former players right now, Nick Sanders. I don't mind saying his name on here, but he was on me all year about how important Garrett Heen was going to be. And Matt Rafferty was on me all year about how important Garrett Heen was going to be. And man, was he, right? I mean, he just stepped up in an immense way in that tournament. Joe Anderson's growth, not playing a lot early, dealing with adversity, but then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 steals in the Charleston game and just completely turning the game and the experience he got. But then, I mean, look at J.P. Pegues. I mean, look what he did in his freshman year, and just not playing a lot early, not having a defined role, but then, boom, Western Carolina game, and then huge plays, in Spartanburg to help win us that game.
And Jason, I got to tell you, Bob kept telling Tom and I when we would talk before we would do the pregame interviews and the broadcast. He kept telling us, Pegues is coming.
Yeah.
He's coming. The shots aren't falling right now, but he's coming. He's coming. And finally he arrived, didn't he?
He did. And going back, Huey, I mean, that was a huge decision. Are we going to redshirt him or not? And so we decided to redshirt him. And the philosophy of redshirting, when you look back on it, if they help you win one game, it's worth pulling it. Now if they don't help you win a game, then now you regret it, right? It's like Jalen Slauson. We don't redshirt him his freshman year, but he helps us win Chattanooga here and Greensboro here. Okay, completely worth it. So this year, we're down 15 in the semifinals to Sanford, and he comes in and completely sparks our whole team.
Yes.
And he gets the key steal. He goes and has the monster dunk, and it changed our whole energy. It changed the bench. It changed the belief. He just went out there and he was like, hey, we're down 15. Just go play as hard as we can. Let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. And we're not winning that semifinal game without Tyrese Huey. And so I say all that to say this. We haven't just Alex Williams. I mean, he came out there and helped us win some games early at High Point. The shot he made in the App State game. You look at James Repass, somebody we haven't had a body like that in a while. Johnny Lawrence is coming off an injury, but he's got an elite skill and ability to shoot with size. And then, we've got these 3 new guys that, 2 of them we can discuss just because they signed in the early period. But listen, Ben, I always try to help freshmen by keeping their expectations a little, just controlled. But you don't pull up, All-State Illinois much and not see that it's full of just all high major players. Yeah. And for him to be on that list is incredible. And what he is as a person and also as a player, he's going to fit in here really well. Davis is somebody that's just, again, tough, smart, skilled. I mean, he's somebody that's, comes from a basketball family and, really values what we value as a program. And then we recently added another player that probably everybody's aware of, but I'm not able to discuss it right now just with, until everything gets done. But, we're excited about the collective of it. And then what we're going to have to do is put this whole thing together. And really we're going to have to use every second of our time this summer and this fall and this preseason to make sure we have a very clear picture of what we have.
And you shared something early on that I just want to make sure everyone got, which was to talk about, whether it's Mike Bothwell or, whatever Jalen is in this process. But the great programs are doing exactly what you're doing with your player development, your growth, and having guys really want to buy into the development, but also want to buy into the retention to be a part of it. The fact that Mike is looking at the NBA, going through a totally natural process, which this is what high major programs are doing, that he's saying, where do I stand? What's the feedback I need to have? What do I need to know going into this next year for myself professionally, competitively, is the ultimate compliment to Furman basketball to have that level of trust, that level of development, that opportunity. And that feeds back down into the rest of the program. That's what builds that trust that you're doing, and it's a great job there. I also shared with you during the tournament in Asheville, a friend of mine was a scout with the NBA. I said, what are you doing here? He says, I'm here to see your guy. And I love the fact that it may not be known, but, I mean, NBA scouts are watching Jalen Slauson, many of them, to see where he stands. So between Malachi Smith at Chattanooga and Jalen Slauson, there's NBA scouts there that are watching them right now saying, what are they doing, their skill sets, their versatility, their development, that can really impact the game. So it's just a great compliment to Furman basketball, the work that you guys are doing. I also wanted to share a funny story I shared with you and the team the other day. It gets really cool when you're a part of a university where the university starts to buy into the basketball culture as well. We're at the faculty meeting last week, and the meeting goes on. It's one of those longer meetings. It took about 2 hours to get through, maybe a little bit longer. And they went through all these presentations about the academics and the awards and the finances and all the different things you got enrollment. And they opened up to questions at the end. They fully expected to have a ton of questions. They only asked 2 questions. One of the questions is, are we getting raises? And that's a normal question to ask at the end of the year. Will there be raises? And the second question, which I loved, was, how does the basketball team look, and who's coming back? And for the faculty to be asking questions about who's coming back on the team. And then I love that our president answered the question with great pride, and she answered about recruits was really cool. But just the fact that this institution is getting behind and seeing the value add and getting excited about the success of the program has got to be a great feeling for you too.
There's just a number of fronts. I mean, going back to the NBA part, other night I was in my house and one of the team's director of scouting called me. And then a couple of days later, another team's director of scouting called me. And one of them, we talked about Slauson, but one of them was actually calling about Mike. And the cool part about that was what they said about it when they were asking me about him was they said, look, we don't quite know exactly what position he is, but we were sitting there watching that Chattanooga game, and we just see he has it.
Yes.
Like whatever it is, we see that he has that. And, they see obviously with Slauson the things that you can't coach, 46-inch running, vertical, which is just those things and how he impacts the game defensively, his versatility. So it's really neat to see both those guys being able to do that. That's definitely new for this program. That's something we really haven't had to deal with before. Matt had a few things. I remember the Kings calling and the Rockets calling. But in terms of this much attention to it and this many questions, this much data, the Pistons are calling the strength coach. I mean, there's just a lot going on with that. But that's been a neat part of this for sure. And, look, as the program continues to grow, the presence of the program, the brand of the program, it's all going to tie together, and to be able to partner with a beautiful city that we have, with a prestigious university that's got an unbelievable academic brand and reputation. That's what we want to be able to do. And, it's in the ever-changing world of college athletics, to be able to have a stable program that we have pride in, that we're not compromising anything from a value standpoint, from what the university believes in, that we can do it in a way that is sustainable. And we don't have to listen to the noise and, in my opinion, some of the nonsense that you can't do it this way anymore. And to be honest with you, I think there's going to be market correction in this as the year goes on. And we're going to look back in 5-10 years and we're going to say, hey, you know what? Program always wins, always will win. And the people that can really create program. And that's what we're chasing. We're not, and this is where I think people get a little bit misconception in this sometimes. Like, what St. Peter's did is incredible. There's no doubt about it. It's phenomenal. It's probably not sustainable, okay? What we're looking to do is we're looking to build something that's sustainable to where the NCAA tournament is a part of that. That's, hey, we know the league's good. It's a one-bid league, but we're putting ourselves in position that we're in the conversation every year. But the story of it is an ongoing infrastructure that you have a program that has a legit national brand. It's not a flash-in-the-pan type deal, that when people say the name, that it carries weight. And you look at programs like your Butlers and your Belmonts and your Davidsons and your Daytons and, those programs, and there's more we could add in there. But where it's not just, oh, man, they showed up on the map and they were there and then they disappeared. And that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do is we not only just build our team, but you look at what we're doing in the community and you look at what some of our players are doing in the community. We want to make sure this is all encompassing, and that's what's been a lot of fun about this.
I love it, Bob. We don't want to keep you all day, but it's part of it's just a thanks to what you're doing. I don't know what the fan base always realizes, the opportunities that you've been recruited to. There's been a lot of people that want Bob Richey to be a part of their basketball program, and your commitment to Furman, to Greenville, to the basketball players, to the alumni. It's just been remarkable. And, all the conversations we have is about how do you build sustainable success? What does this look like for a long run? You've already done 10 years here as an assistant, as a head coach, but you believe in what Furman is, and you've got a vision for what you want the brand of Furman basketball to be, which to me that's what the greatest coaches do. You're not just coaching in the moment. You're not just coaching for that season. You're making long-term decisions, and it's really exciting to see where this is going, and my hat's off to you. I'm very excited for next season. Just a couple looks at the season. The fact that we get to go to Charleston and play in an MTE with all these teams nationally on national TV is a great opportunity. You've also built a really strong schedule already. There's a lot of home and homes that are built in there. But what are some things as you look ahead to next season you're excited about as we get into next season?
Well, again, just talking about things that we've never been able to do, to be a part of an ESPN tournament that's never been done here. And we're going to be a part of the Charleston Classic, which, your Penn State, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Colorado State, Davidson, Charleston, a couple more. But it's going to be a great field, and it's going to be in Charleston. And, I would, again, same thing, like come be a part. We're going to be one of the closer proximity schools. Let's make sure we get those tickets, and let's go spend that part of the week down there, and let's go make that a lot of fun. All the games will be on ESPN, which again brings more exposure to the program. But look, I mean, there's a lot of noise about all kind of different things going on in the last 6 weeks. Here's the bottom line, okay? We sat around here a lot and we said, hey, 2015 we were 347 in RPI, right? We've heard that narrative. Well, the fact is this year we had the highest net in the state. Okay, let's keep that. Let's go push it, right? Like this isn't second place to anybody. Okay, and that took a while for us to get there, but this was the best basketball program objectively in the state this year. And so for us, we have to look at that and say, where's the opportunity lie? Now, here's the bad news for the listeners: it's not getting cheaper. Okay? and
the other shoe just dropped.
It's something. It's just the reality of the situation. I mean, you look at the NIL situation. You can sit back and say, hey, that's those other schools. It's all coming down this way. And, what we have to do to continue, investment equals return. There's going to be some things that we're trying to do behind the scenes to continue to pull in a group of people that understand that this is the opportunity, but this is also going to be the investment that it's going to take. And, hopefully with the momentum and the excitement and when you see an opportunity that we're able to capitalize on it, the time's now. Yeah. And that's the message internally in our locker room. That's the message in the staff room, right? And that's the message to the community. And this is the time where we can look back on this, and this will be a part of the story that the shot didn't go in, the shot went in, and it was a painful deal, but we all decided to grow from it, and we all decided to look and say, how can we push this? And there's going to be some things that we're already involved in. There's some great things that are happening, but there's, you look at the landscape of college basketball. These guys want to know, where am I playing? Where am I eating? Where am I sleeping? Right now, they got the NIL deal situation going on. So, you just saw Miami get a commitment the other night for $800,000. Now we're not getting in all that. Like that's not the direction I want to take this. I want to use it as a situation for our further demand program to educate and to enhance and to make this a complete student athlete experience. But there's just a lot of different situations where, it's going to take an all-in approach. And, I'm excited about we talked about the dinner the other night. I mean, that's Raymond Newsom and Charlie Mosley saying, hey, we want to take care of our players.
Yes.
And that's all we're asking. We're not doing anything for selfish gain out here. We've shown our commitment. What we're asking is, can we look for ways to enhance the student-athlete experience, to continue to build the infrastructure of the program, and let's go take the opportunity. And, Jason and I, we've talked about this a lot. But there's a lot of people that are excited about this, and I think that's what's going to be the neat part looking back, is seeing how this was all navigated, and seeing what we did in this opportunity. To when we look back on it, we say, hey, that's when we struck right there, and it was all worth it.
Well, that's a great plug for Dinsday also.
Yep.
We're going through this process, and there are some structural things which we can talk more about. There's things we're working on that they're literally buildings that we're trying to change. There's structure in terms of process and policy. Support, all those different things. But some of the things that are some of the most important is also just direct support for the program. And it's not asking a lot. It's just asking to prioritize something that's really special, something that goes in a great direction, at a program that's being supported at a high level by an institution but needs to take the next steps to go further. And you and I have spent a lot of time thinking about what we need to do structurally when it comes to Timmons and all those steps that are coming together. And so much of that is energizing a base. It's just positivity. It's people. It's process going into that. But as we edge closer to what that can be, those are the type of steps you have to take to have a program be the program that you want to have over time. But biggest thing is if folks can make a gift supporting Bob Richey basketball tomorrow, that's going to be a big part of what we do tomorrow. But also just join the ride. This is a fun time to get on the band and be a part of it. It's going to be a fun run, but we need everyone's support. And you've said it before. Your message hasn't changed. You want an all-in effort and get everybody behind it. It's our students, our staff, our faculty, our fans. But it's going in a great direction.
Well, I just left a student group meeting, and Drew did a great job pulling some students together and their excitement and what they want this to be and the ideas that were being discussed. It's that's the energizing part of this, and we're looking forward to it. Our players have done their part, and the people that we all wanted to come back are coming back, and our players have shown commitment. Right, our Marcus Foster has shown commitment. Those guys are working, and our players have done the part. So we've got to make sure we give them the best experience we can. And Den's Day, from a program standpoint, we're going to do the same thing that we did last year. I know a lot of people like the exclusive gear that we have, and feeling like they're a part. And so we'll have all that released tonight, and in the morning in terms of the dry fits and the quarter zips and the pullovers and things like that. But any bit helps. And again, one of the small landscapes that have changed is the whole. The way these guys eat and the food and all, what was that 5 years ago where they basically said, hey, there's no more 3 meals. It's whatever. And so we all want these guys to gain weight. Well, with gaining weight, you got to have the resources with a great strength program, but you also have to have the food to be able to make sure you're fueling these bodies at an optimal level. And, with the amount of food that we're starting to feed them, also with like a 9% increase on inflation, it's the price is definitely going up.
Suddenly, not only you're an amateur psychologist, but you're an economist now, right?
You're gonna call me crazy for saying it, but we literally talk about corporations and individuals sponsoring meals for the team during the summertime. I mean, we've gotten to that point where the investment in the health and the quality of what we do, I mean, it's important. You talk about priorities for your program, you talk about how you feed your guys in the summer. And the best programs, it's a fact, they get better in the offseason. The teams that win championships, it's the work. That's what Bob was talking about. It's having that time in April when you otherwise wouldn't have it to get better before you go home. It's having that time in June and July to have that productive summer that when you get back in August, you're primed to be a champion. Every great coach knows it, but it's the work that gets done. Roy Williams was quoted talking about that just the other day. It's the sweat equity. Are you willing to sweat in the summer? And you're willing to put that time in? But part of getting the guys to sweat, we got to feed them. We got to treat them right. We got to do the right things with them. We got to build them up. But it's in a great place, Bob. Congratulations.
Well, and I don't want to end this without talking about Jimmy. I know you referenced that a little bit. Yeah. But, man, couldn't be more excited for Jimmy Williams and his family. I had the privilege of going to the press conference on Thursday. And, first of all, was blown away by what Anderson has and just their campus and, what their president's done there, 4,200 students. And, it aligns with who Jimmy is as a person, his faith, his values. He's going to do an incredible job there. And, we do feel like that we have a different model in today's age. And it's a strong relationship-based cultural model that can focus on retention and building student athletes the correct way, but also having a very competitive style of basketball to be played. And to be able to go through the process with Jimmy in the last 3 weeks and then to see him get his opportunity and now to be waking up to calls at 6:30 in the morning with 5 or 6 questions. It's been great. It's been fun to watch his excitement, and he's going to do great. It's going to be right down the street, and we'll give more details about what we're going to do with the staff. To make sure that we replace him, which is going to be hard. He's uniquely gifted relationally, and he had very strong relationships with our players and our parents that are watching this right now. They know what he did for us from that regard, and so. But we're excited for his family, and hopefully all of us. I'm going to try to do it myself. We'll be able to go down I-85 one time next year and go support him, and watch him lead Anderson University.
Before you go, can I share the story about Jimmy Williams and Conley Garrison?
Absolutely.
Because Jimmy was at a D2 school and was recruiting Conley, and he told Tom and I that he called Conley every day for a year, recruiting him to try to get him to come to the school that he was coaching at. Conley chose to go to Drury instead, the school Jimmy was not at. But that relationship was so good and was so strong, that's how Conley ends up getting that connection here.
And I've been saying this for a couple months now. I mean, the relationship component is always talked about in our business, but this is the first time it's really about to get tested. You know, everybody says relationships. Now you're forced to do them, and you're forced to invest in them, and you can't just put it on a shirt. You can't just put it in your slogan. You can't tell people it's about people. Like, it's at this point with the portal, with the dynamics of the business, it's got to be real. And what that showed was authentic, genuine relationship that he invested in. And that's why when we recruited him last year, it was done pretty quick. You know, I mean, because of what Jimmy had done from an investment standpoint. And he was just unique at it. He was really, really good at it. And it's something that I told our staff last week, like, we all have to continue to get better there to replace him. It's like when we tried to replace Matt Rafferty, it wasn't, well, we got to go get this player to replace Matt Rafferty. It's, hey, everybody's going to have to pitch into this. And, you know, Jordan Lyons, same, you know, like when you replace really good people, it forces everybody to step up and to try to do the things that they do well. And so, you know, we're gonna lose a big piece, but man, how exciting it's gonna be to watch him be able to go out there and lead his own program, and for it to be right down the road, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Amazing, yeah, amazing. Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much.
Good stuff. That is Bob Richey. We're going to let him scoot out of here, and while he does, I'm going to remind you about a couple of things that I know is on the mind of a lot of people, and that's season tickets. What you're seeing here is a screenshot of what you're going to see if you go to FurmanPaladins.com and click on the ticket portal, where you'll be able to go ahead and start your renewal process for both football season tickets and men's basketball season tickets. You'll be able to get your tickets, and whether they're renewals or a first-time season ticket buy, whatever they are, FurmanPaladins.com, and you can start that process there. And then Jason also mentioned that we're recording this on Monday. It's going to drop Monday afternoon. Tuesday, all day Tuesday, the 26th, is Dens Day, and that means that it's the day that is set aside once a year to really make an emphasis on giving gifts to the athletic department. And you can set those gifts aside and specify them for individual programs, and you can also do that online. So you can do all of that at FurmanPaladins.com. Your football tickets, your basketball tickets, and your Dens Day giving, it's all there at FurmanPaladins.com. All you have to do is check it out online, and you'll be ready to go. All right. Went a little longer with Bob than I think we probably planned on it, but...
And Dan, I just, I mean, if you're not inspired by that, I don't know what gets it going. And we didn't have a chance to even debrief about what we're going to talk about today, besides you sending me the questions. But
I don't know how many of those we're actually going to be able to get into. So I think this probably answers our question: were we going to do one in May? And I think the answer probably is yes. Because
I mean, but I just want to. Number one, I appreciate everything you do. It's one of the things when Dan and I have a chance to catch up, I get a chance to see all the work he does with our sports. Our student athletes, our coaches, our staff truly appreciate what you do with all the content. It just keeps us all connected. And we've got 2 rookie coaches that are going through their first season, and just them connecting with you and the opportunity to grow themselves. And then you get a veteran coach like Bob, and just the value he brings to Furman, the value he brings to this basketball program, just where his insight is. And for me as an AD, things that get you most excited are working with great, passionate, visionary coaches, work with student athletes who give it everything they got, whether that's in the classroom or whether that's on the field or just in terms of what they're trying to grow into. And then just to see programs grow and be successful like they are. But really thankful for that time with Bob. Part of why we did this, usually when we touch base, it's usually a coach in season, but there's just so much that's happened since basketball season. Some other things for the fans, part of us is we're putting our whole unit together, and we're getting to a point as a department, and I've got to keep our people, talking about this, that there's a plan for all of this. Everything's going really well, but to build in that consistency, and Bob will build that consistency back with you in terms of his plan for next year and getting together and to hear that, because the vision's great. And I get notes from coaches and friends of mine that, hey, I just listened to Bob's podcast and had a chance to tune in and listen. He does a great job, so we're so happy. I do want to segue real quick to just go through a couple of things. It was a great winter. I think maybe the last podcast was the week of the Southern Conference tournament, and things have been crazy busy for everyone since then. But to see both men's and women's basketball go to the Southern Conference Championship and to have that experience for what that was, Jackie moved on from there and played with the women's basketball team in a postseason tournament, got her 20th win. Bob's team had an amazing season. So to see both programs compete that way and have that type of ability. For Tiara Hodges being a player of the year for women's basketball was amazing. Really great opportunity for our department. We much rather would have been playing in the NCAA tournament, but we were honored and felt a great privilege to host the NCAA tournament here in Greenville. What a great opportunity for our city, and we had by far the best pod in terms of having Coach K here in his last dance and going through everything, and top media crew and all the attention of the country on Greenville was such a great opportunity for Furman. And my compliments to everyone from Furman, all of our staff and volunteers that worked that and did such a great job, and particularly Hunter Reed and the entire communications team were just unbelievable. It's hard to quantify the amount of hours that people put in to make that a success. I mean, one day went from 8 a.m. until 2 in the morning before people even thought about leaving the building. And then also great moments, with some of our fall sports. We had an amazing football spring day, and don't want that to get overshadowed by all these amazing things been taking place in the spring. But to feel the energy and to feel the importance of where this football program's headed and the vision that we have with that, it was very exciting. We had a great men's and soccer alumni day, and Clint Dempsey, one of the greatest players of all time in soccer, to come back here and be a part of that. And Walker Zimmerman, who right now is one of the Team USA's top players in Nashville SC, for him to make a gift back to the program and be inspired that way. Just some incredible things. I did want to touch base on this past weekend before we get into any questions, because it was a great one. And it was almost hard to keep up with everything. After following off with women's golf winning the SoCon Championship, shout out to Jeff Hull and the entire team. What a great accomplishment for them. And they'll get ready for the NCAA Regionals. We've got a selection show coming up this Wednesday to find out where they go next. Shout out to Adam Herendine and the women's tennis program. Won the regular season Southern Conference Championship, won the Southern Conference Tournament Championship, which is so hard. It's their 5th straight, but the margin is so thin, both for golf and tennis, and to see them compete at that level is just remarkable. Women's lacrosse with a huge win this past week over Campbell. Campbell was leading the conference and was undefeated, and for them to go in there and get that win was huge for Kirkland Lewis and that team. Stacy Johnson-Whitfield with a sweep this past weekend with the softball program was great, and a great, beautiful weekend on campus here. Cross-country track and field continues to impress. They just continue to rack up the accolades, and just remarkable as they head into their conference tournament. And men's tennis and men's golf both finished out with really good years. I was really proud of JJ and everything the men's tennis program's done. Got to the semifinals, and they were right there for a regular season outright championship. They were right down there to the last serve. And men's golf finishing 3rd in the SoCon was awesome. So we've just got a lot of great stuff going on, Dan. And if there's anything, if this inspires you, if you're a Paladin fan, and this allows you to put some energy or resources towards tomorrow, Dins Day. Last day of classes, Dins Day, university's largest fundraiser of the year. And the whole purpose of Dins Day, honestly, is just to participate. It doesn't matter how much you give. It just matters that you support. And we're competitive. Each team will have competitions. We'll see what teams are at the front. We'll see who has the largest percentage of giving. We'll see who has the most money that they raise. But this just matters, and it shows a great sign of support to the student athletes, to the coaches, and it really impacts administration. Administration is seeing this. And it's important that they see how important Furman athletics is tomorrow. For me personally, I'll make a selfish plug. I will support the Paladins Scholarship Fund, which is our greatest need in terms of providing scholarships for our student athletes. And I think it's the most important thing that we do if you can objectively give. And what I mean by that is that if you're passionate about basketball or you're passionate about soccer, follow your heart, do what you feel is right. But for me, supporting all of our athletes and believing in the greater mission of what our department's trying to do to provide these educational opportunities, I would encourage anyone that is objective in this way to think about giving the scholarship. So it's going to be a great day tomorrow, and wanted to turn it over to you and anything you want to go through.
Well, I was just going to say, again, we're recording this on Monday, so going back to Friday, again today, and then in the early hours on Tuesday, have been and will be recording short videos that are going to be dropping on Furman social media with coaches of different programs about Dins Day and with Aaron Wissing about Dins Day and what it just means to their programs individually and how it impacts the student athletes. And I think that's kind of the one theme that I've been trying to get across in each one of these interviews, because I think to some people you hear, oh, they're asking for money again. But what I'm trying to get them to understand is that every gift that's made has a direct impact on the student-athlete experience here at Furman, and they see it. And Bob talked about it, from nutrition to to strength and conditioning. Some of the coaches have talked about the ability to enhance the travel experience, uniforms, equipment. I mean, all the way down the line to some of the most basic things to some of the things that help keep them in competitive advantage with schools, not just in the Southern Conference, but with schools around the country. All of the coaches agree that those gifts are important for the student-athlete experience.
Yeah, and we're not, we're not going to cry poor. I mean, we've got a great thing going here at Furman. It's what I told our department earlier today is that we are the beneficiaries of some generous resources from the institution. We're a tuition-driven institution, and we're thankful for what we do. We're also very mindful of what we do. I know the difference in spending, and I know where it's being overdone and where it's not. Our coaches are mindful of resources, appreciative of resources, grateful. And we look at what we do. You've got salaries, you've got operating, you have scholarships, all the things that come into it. But there's a degree of competitiveness also. We're competing at Furman for national recognition. We're competing for Southern Conference championships. So it's taking things to the next level. It's also supporting the greater mission of what it means to be a student athlete and have an athletic department in Division I, is that you got to show your energy and your passion points. I talk about all the time for me, like, my passion has always been and always will be higher education in the form of the student-athlete experience. It's just something that was a game-changing experience for me as a young person and allowed me so many incredible opportunities. My wife's passion is the church. It's not even close. It's that she truly believes that her investment and our resources are going to be those things. So we've got to figure that out, as a family. We've got to figure out where are our passions. But it's okay to be passionate about more than one thing. And we just ask as a part of this process is just consider Furman one of the things you get passionate about. And again, it's not, some days it's about, we're trying to rebuild an arena. It comes back to capital, because you've got to have the ability to have the capital to make these major changes. We're talking about support for programs and participation, and the metrics that matter around programs is when people say, I believe in this football program. I'm going to make my gift today and support football. I believe in this athletic department. I'm going to make my gift today. I believe in this lacrosse program. I'm going to get behind it. And the emotions that come with that, however small or however big the gift is, and just finding that passion. So we can move on from Dinsday, but we got so many good things going on here right now, and definitely want to get into all the questions in terms of what we're doing.
Well, and here's the thing. As we're recording this and I'm looking at the clock, you're already late for what I know is the next appointment that you have. So knowing now that we probably do need to do this again in May as a wrap-up, probably just with you and I, to take care of a lot of these questions.
Yeah.
Just what are the highlights of this long list that we have that you want to hit, and then we'll just save the rest of them maybe for later.
Yeah, and we thank you to the fans, because one of the things that I always ask Dan is let's get questions from our fan base to find out what's important to you. And I'll just run through some of the things I see here. Questions about Timmons. Timmons is an ongoing process right now. Love where it's headed. Our board, our president, all engaged with this process. Our donors are engaged with this process. These things will happen in time. It just takes time to go through that process. We have phases to the process. There's different pieces of the project that we'd be happy to release to the public once we get to that point. But it's either by getting a leadership gift, which is a large gift to move things forward, which is typically the way things work when you're going through a capital project, or it's coming through with different pieces along the way. Institution has shown the willingness to do institutional support, but we've got to drive the donor interest in terms of getting that done. But I do feel really good about where that's at. There's been a lot of great work that's gone on behind the scenes. I know sometimes for fans who say, well, we want to see what's next or what's going to happen next. As soon as we get to a point where things are approved and able to move forward from an institutional level, we would share all of that information. Next question here is talking about games at the Well. Yes, we will have games at the Well. We don't know exactly what those games will be. Bob and Jeremy Groh, as associated coach, do a great job assisting with the scheduling process, but there's also a strategy around it, and those are the things that Bob and I discuss. In a given year, last year he made it a point to really double down on a really difficult schedule intentionally, and the intent of that was to try to give us the best possible opportunity to earn an at-large bid. Bob is also metrics-driven and is following the metrics around this and looking at what's the best strategy for next season with the team we have coming back. So we are going to be aggressive in our scheduling, but also in our approach is going to be very systematic, driven by metrics and things that are really important to Bob. And that's where, for me as an AD, sometimes I'll get questions about scheduling, and I'll just be honest, as an AD, I'm here to support our coaches and what they think gives them the best opportunity to be competitive in a given year.
Do you think the philosophy is going to be similar to what we saw last year?
It's similar, going to be different, too, at the same time. I'll quote what Jeremy told Bob as soon as we beat Louisville, he's like, we're not going to get any more of these games anymore. Furman has a mark on it, and what I mean by that is I did scheduling at Villanova. I was very clued into what we were trying to accomplish, and we would avoid teams like Furman that were great teams. What's the risk reward in terms of what it's going to be? Teams with resources don't need to play Furman because they can go buy someone else that doesn't have the resume that Furman has. So we've got to be selective in the games. You got to find a lot of home-and-home opportunities. And in some cases, you got to find some high major games where the team is actually willing to play you. And that sometimes creates a challenge. If the program wasn't where it is right now, you would see teams happy to play us and happy to have us come in. The other thing, too, is there's also a financial impact that's going on around college athletics that is really it's a little bit unseen and unheard. Athletic directors at Power Fives are offering less money for guarantee games these days because the budgets have changed since COVID and the emphasis in terms of what they're willing to pay. So as a program, we've also got to look at it. Do we want to put our team out there for less of an opportunity, or what are we looking to do? If North Carolina wanted to play us next year, we'd do that in a heartbeat. If they were ready to do that, we'd love to play in North Carolina. We'd love to play Duke. We'd love to play Villanova, schools like that. But sometimes it's time and place and circumstance in terms of where those schools are. We will be aggressive to try to play Clemson. We will be aggressive to try to play South Carolina and incentivize them to play us as well as a part of that process. But that's an ongoing thing that we're working on. Questions about football scheduling have come up. And, Rob Carson's done a great job of stepping in for Ken Pettis and putting a schedule together. And, again, that's built around Clay Hendrick's vision for what he needs to do and what he wants to do. Any decision we make on scheduling is always going to be at the behest of the head coach and in cooperation with me in terms of what I think is reasonable and what we can do. But we will be aggressive. I know people are asking about what's down the road. It's unknown. And I mean, when I say that is that, the FBS programs are not scheduling guarantee games past 2026. And that's concerning for schools at our level, because does that mean that they're no longer going to be playing games down the road? Does that mean they're changing their scheduling strategies? And the truth of the matter is they don't know, because this summer, the biggest topic everyone's got to keep track of is going to be this constitutional committee that's going to look at the bylaws and the organization of the NCAA at the Division I level. They call it the Transformation Committee, and where this is all headed. And the honest truth is no one knows. So there's a lot taking place right now in terms of conversations. There was an article out yesterday with the athletic director at Notre Dame making speculation into the 2030s. I mean, that's how far out this is going. But there's a lot of things that are going on right now that, you probably can't look too much further past 5 years. You got to look at what's right in front of you. You got to look at what's happening in the next few years with a 5-year window. But some of those things in terms of scheduling are going to take place over time, and we'll be prepared. We'll be ready, but we got to be patient too. We got to wait our turn. Other questions, Dan, that are on here. Can't wait for this Charleston tournament. It's called an MTE, multiple team event. And this is just a great opportunity for Furman. We were supposed to be in it 2 years ago during COVID. We got into one based on the merit of the program, something that the Southern Conference has been working on, something we talk about in our ADs meetings. And just a great opportunity to go on a neutral floor against teams that are really good or bigger schools per se that wouldn't necessarily play us on a regular schedule. And it's a chance for our team to go to Charleston. So we're going to encourage the entire fan base. We're going to have events. We're going to have activities. We're going to have hotels. We're going to have the whole deal in Charleston. And we're also going to have a fan bus that's going to return for the Wofford game here in Paladins Stadium that Saturday. So we're going to do it all. Dan, you're going to be in a lot of different places that week. You're going to be in Charleston and here on campus for a great football game.
We can handle it. If I can do Louisville and Furman, I can do Charleston and Furman.
We're going to do it, and we're really looking forward to that. But the genesis of getting that opportunity is we have a great program. We've got an aggressive coach that's looking for opportunities. We've got an aggressive conference that's looking for opportunities for us. The goal is to have a Southern Conference team, the best team in the conference, in a multiple team tournament every year. Those are the things we're working for on that level. But that does impact scheduling, because you got to figure out how many of these games you're going to be able to play and still balance a schedule across the board. Other things here, I think Bob talked a little bit about the transfer portal. That's going to have a major effect on college basketball. Fortunately for us right now, it has not had a major effect on our programs, because some programs, and our fan base needs to be aware of this, have lost their entire roster. So I'm not overstating that, but there's been teams that have lost all their players and have moved on. and that's made a major impact. We're going to lose one or two people here. We're going to gain one or two people here with the model that we have both in football and in basketball. But we've gone through it. We lost some all-conference players in both football and basketball as a part of this, and we need to be prepared for the future to go through that. And the best thing we can do is to double down in terms of who we are at Furman with a great degree, with a great alumni base, with great resources, and great commitment to the student-athlete experience. And if we can deliver on who we are at Furman, we're going to retain more than we're going to lose. But anytime you go through transitions, you run that risk, and that's the greatest risk of the portal. Some programs, I saw some of my college basketball buddies at the NCAA tournament, and they were talking about it. They're not even recruiting high school players anymore because all they're doing is doing the work in the portal because they look at that as a better method for getting college-ready guys. So as opposed to going out there and casting a net and looking at recruits like I used to do and 8th graders and up, they're not even doing that. They're going to spend their time focusing on the transfer portal, looking at known commodities, going through a process of what that is, and name, image, and likeness has only enhanced that. It's only made it more intense because now you have transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, and COVID eligibility at the same time. So you have a lot of different dynamics that are out and about there. And
does it frighten you, and Bob brought this up, does it frighten you to any degree at all about the direction of college athletics when you see that a young man transfers from one school to another and announcing that transfer is a 2-year, $800,000 NIL deal plus a car?
Yes.
I mean, that sounds so much like he just signed a 2-year contract. Sounds like a professional contract.
Yes. Yeah, it's very concerning, and it's one of those things where we've got to figure out where this is all headed. And I think Nick Saban had a quote, so if this is where it's headed, then this is where it's headed. And that's where the powers that be around this have got to make decisions. I think in that article it talked about what the Notre Dame athletic director talked about Congress being involved, or is it conferences being involved, or who's going to be involved. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the conferences. And where this is headed is that the NCAA is giving the autonomy to conferences to decide what their model is going to be and what they're willing to accept or not accept. But the model's changing very quickly, and either there's going to have to be adaptability or this is going to be different. This is going to be a different model. But yes, I would say it's very concerning. But as you heard from Bob too, I do believe that a student athlete is entitled to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. It is something that they have the right to do it. I think what's going on here is the convergence of the three things. You got the portal, you got COVID eligibility, and you got NIL at the same time. That's where Bob said the market will regulate and things may calm down when some of this stuff passes. But you got a lot of different things going on at the same time. And that's why you're seeing some great coaches, you're seeing some great athletic directors that have done this for a long time are stepping away because there's concerns over where this is headed, and there's concerns over what this is going to be for people.
Do you think that played a role in your former boss, Jay Wright, stepping away?
So Coach Wright, I've gotten that question a lot. I was blessed to do 15 years at Villanova for Coach and work directly for him and with him in many different ways. His decision's very transparent, and he shared it all publicly. He just got burnt out. And if you look at what we've all gone through in recent years, we all went through at college athletics, we all went through the pandemic year, the same as everyone else. But to be in the isolation of that, particularly in the Northeast, they spent a year in hotel rooms where they weren't allowed out, they weren't able to do anything. He went straight from that into coaching the Olympic team. So he went from isolation to isolation, went through a whole summer of not seeing his family, not being able to do the things he wanted to do. And the Olympics were such that they weren't allowed to bring their families with them because they couldn't spend time with them or have them in the hotel. It was that intense. Straight to the Hall of Fame, straight into another season. And the rumors started going around at the Final Four would he step down. And I thought it'd be reasonable. I thought he would take some time off. That's what I thought he would do based on past conversations. He's a tremendous coach. He's a tremendous person, but he's an all-in person. He talked about if you're not 100% in, then you're against us. I mean, that's literally how he views it. And for him, I'm not surprised that he took time away. I don't think it's as much about the change in the game. Mm-hmm. He's as adaptable as they come, and he'd figure out a way to adapt. But he's been a promoter of the amateur model, and he believes in what college athletics has been in the past and what it's supposed to be supporting. But I also think you'll see him come back one day. I could see him returning to coaching after he enjoys some time of retirement with his family and doing some TV and playing some golf and being a regular person. And sometimes in his coaching profession, the things that people lose track of, and you know this too because you're in the broadcast profession, the same thing. Your schedule is dictated by your game schedule, by your travel schedule, by your commitments and obligations, and it does take its toll. So, one of the things I just said to Bob during the break, because he said it, he goes, "Yeah, we haven't taken any time off yet." And I'm cognizant of that for both him and his family. And I said, "Hey, you're taking time off, right? You got it scheduled," and he will, But he's been grinding since the moment that season ended, trying to keep it all together, trying to push it all forward, trying to process all those things. So it's an exciting thing. But I will say also, guys, we're fully committed to Bob. Bob's fully committed to Furman. As you go through this process, is one of the questions on here. He's got a great contract and great commitment from the institution, and it goes both ways. I will also say that, and I think our fan base needs to know this, not just with Bob, but with all of our coaches. You got to enjoy them while you got them. And what I mean by that is that, we are at a mid-major institution that is competing for national recognition, Southern Conference championships. But when you have talent, we also have to remember that other people recognize talent as well. And some of the institutions that have expressed Bob, this is the third straight year that we've had schools coming after him, and we've been able to retain him. But it's also a great compliment to Furman. He wants to be here. He wants to be here at Furman, wants to be here in Greenville. His family's committed to that. He wants to build this to be a winner. And, Bob could be an institutional coach. It's not beyond the realm of possibility for him to coach his career here. He believes in Furman that much. However, there's also institutions that have resources way beyond the ability for a Furman that can do things when it comes to salary and programs and investment that are way beyond anything we could ever imagine at a Furman today. And we've all got to be realistic about what that is and engage that conversation. And that's where Bob's been a great steward of his role, is that he understands that, and he's invested in Furman for the now, for the future, for his legacy, all those things that matter. And we're mindful of that too. But we will continue to compete in the programs that we believe in. And I know we're talking about Dinsday, but that's where the donor support really comes in. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for the donors that have supported Bob to date, Bob Richey would not be here. We've had people that have stepped up in big ways to support him, to support other coaches, to support the Clay Hendricks of the world and the Doug Allisons and the Jeff Holes of the world and the Adam Herendines. There's some great coaches here, and that support keeps coming around, and that's a really good thing for everyone. But that's the model that we exist in, and that's the model we've got to compete in. And we've also got to be prepared for transitions. Part of this process is to get ready for what's next in terms of where it's going. But we're prepared, and Bob's fully committed, and he's got a great contract and great commitment from the university. I love where this is headed, and I also will say it's not without its challenges. We've had plenty of challenges that we've had to go through. I've got a top 3 list of things that I'm working on day in, day out that I think are really important for the vitality of this athletic department in the future in terms of where we're going and what's important. And if those 3 things come together, and I got to keep those to me for now because I got to figure out how we navigate those circles. But if those things come together, it allows all of the plan that we have to come together and allows us to really be sustainable and successful with academics and athletics excellence for a long time. But we've got to get policies in place. We've got to get procedures in place. We've got to get revenue models in place. We've got to get fan base in place. We got to get facilities in place, and the totality of the job is everything that we focus on in terms of how to get there. But we're really close, and we're getting where we want to get to. And as Bob just said, we're just getting started. A lot of these things that we're building are built for the future, so we're excited about that. I know as we wrap up here, Dan, if there's anything else that's on here that you wanted to touch base on, was there any one question that jumped out at you that we're missing?
I think for the sake of time and the fact that I know Carly is waiting on you probably impatiently downstairs to do your part for Dinsday, we probably need to wrap it up. But we will do this again in May and put kind of a bow on this entire athletic year and give us a chance to take a breath and start looking ahead towards the fall of 2022. I just appreciate your time. I appreciate Bob and his time. I know that if there's, well, I say this about all the coaches because I've really gotten a chance to know Stacy Johnson-Whitfield and Kirkland Lewis over the last month with these new Monday programs that we're recording with them. Coaches on this campus, they love their athletes. They love coming to work, and you can see it as they go about what they do. And I just enjoy being a small part of that and getting a chance to talk to them. And hopefully what we do is helping people understand the passion they have for their student athletes, and hopefully that transitions into some things we'll see on Dinsday.
Yeah, and my final note would be just congratulations to our outstanding student athletes, particularly the seniors. on an amazing year and incredible accomplishments at Furman. We're looking forward to celebrating Dins Day tomorrow. We're looking forward to celebrating a senior student-athlete ceremony in about a week. We're looking forward to celebrating graduation. And some of our teams got NCAA aspirations, Olympic aspirations. There's so many great things happening. But we will get together again in May. We'll have a chance to recap, and we'll have a chance to celebrate such a phenomenal year for Furman Athletics and as we look ahead to the future. But please support us tomorrow for Dins Day. It means more than you know. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, boss, thank you. That is Jason Donnelly. You've been with JD the AD. Bob Richey was with us earlier. I'm Dan Scott. This has been Inside Furman Athletics. We'll be back again with another one next time. Until then, for all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott. As always, saying God bless you and so long, everybody.